If you're constantly asking yourself whether you're burned out or just tired, that question alone is already a sign that something deeper is going on. And if you want the full reset that actually helps you get out of this state, I laid it all out step by step in the guide. But even without that, this explanation usually lands in a way most advice never does, because the truth is, people are terrible at telling the difference between normal fatigue and burnout, mostly because burnout doesn't feel dramatic, it feels quiet, flat, heavy. Here's the simplest way to understand it: normal tiredness has an off switch, burnout doesn't. If you're just tired, sleep helps, a day off helps, a slower weekend helps, you rest, and something comes back, your mood lifts a bit, your motivation flickers, you don't feel amazing, but you feel human again. Burnout is different. You rest, and nothing changes, you sleep more, but you don't feel restored, you take time off, but instead of feeling better, you feel empty or strangely irritated. That's the first real clue. Most people think burnout means being overwhelmed, stressed, emotional, on the edge, but that's usually the phase before burnout. Burnout itself is what comes after your system decides it can't stay in high alert anymore, so it pulls the plug, not completely, just enough to keep you functioning. Less energy, less emotion, less drive, not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is trying to survive long term. This is where people get confused. They look at their life and think, I shouldn't feel this bad, I'm not doing that much, other people handle more, and that comparison makes everything worse, because burnout isn't about workload, it's about load without recovery. You can burn out doing things you love if your system never gets a real chance to reset. Here's the part that almost nobody talks about. Burnout lives in the nervous system, not in your mindset. You can't think your way out of it. You can't motivate your way out of it. If this were just tiredness, caffeine would work, a vacation would work, a good night's sleep would work. When none of those touch it, that's not a discipline problem, that's a system problem. Another big difference is how your body reacts to rest. When you're just tired, rest feels good. When you're burned out, rest feels uncomfortable. You sit down and feel restless, you lie in bed and your mind won't shut up, or the opposite. You feel so flat that even things you used to enjoy don't register anymore. That's not laziness, that's your nervous system stuck in a weird middle ground between on and off. And sleep is usually the giveaway. With normal tiredness, sleep pressure builds naturally. You get sleepy, you drift off, you wake up at least somewhat better. With burnout, sleep gets strange, you're exhausted all day but wired at night, or you sleep long hours and still wake up feeling wrecked, or you fall asleep easily but never feel like you get deep rest. That's because your nervous system never fully stands down. It doesn't trust that it's safe enough to let go. This is why people in burnout often say things like, I don't feel stressed, I just feel dead, or I'm tired, but not sleepy, or I'm functioning, but I'm not really here. Those aren't emotional statements, they're physiological ones. They describe a system that's been running in protection mode for too long. The mistake most people make is trying to treat burnout like tiredness. They add more rest, more supplements, more self-care, more pressure to get back to normal. But burnout isn't solved by adding things, it's solved by teaching the nervous system how to come out of defense. Until that happens, your system will keep rationing energy no matter how much you sleep. This is also why pushing through makes it worse. You can force productivity for a while, but every time you do, your system learns that slowing down isn't allowed, so it clamps down harder, energy drops further, motivation disappears, and then people start thinking something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you, your system adapted to something that lasted too long. The real difference between being tired and being burned out is this: tiredness is about depletion, burnout is about protection. One needs rest, the other needs safety, and safety isn't a mindset. It's a physical state your nervous system has to relearn. That's why the approach in the guide isn't about fixing habits or optimizing routines. It's about rebuilding the ability to actually recover, especially at night, so your system can finally complete the stress cycle instead of carrying it forward every single day. Once that happens, energy starts to come back on its own, motivation follows, sleep deepens. You don't have to force yourself to care again. And this is the part people find the most relieving. Burnout doesn't mean you're broken. And it doesn't mean you need to escape your life, it means your nervous system needs a reset, not a lecture. If you're unsure whether you're burned out or just tired, pay attention to this one thing: does rest restore you, or does it just pause the damage? If it's the second one, you're not dealing with simple fatigue, and the good news is, that state is reversible. If this hit a little too close, that's not an accident. This pattern is incredibly common, and it's also very fixable. I broke the full reset process down in the guide, not theory, not hype, but the actual steps that teach your system how to recover again. Because once burnout lifts, you don't just get energy back, you get yourself back.